My name is Alex Ruheni. I'm co-hosting this session on how to ace the 10 weeks. And Felix, kindly introduce yourself. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex, for the chance. So, hello everyone. My name is Felix Omok. I am a student at Clement University. I take computer science and also a Microsoft student partner. So we are very glad that you come to this meeting, and I hope everybody is going to come out with something good. So let me hand it back over to Alex.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to request our presenters to share their video feed, Pius, Anthony, and Clement. So we're going to start with something small where you'll just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and a fun fact about you. So kindly, Pius, kindly start, or whoever's ready. You could start, Ruth, perhaps.
Oh, okay. I'll buy some time for the others. I'll start. My name's Ruth Ferland. I run the student and community engagements. Some fun fact about me, I actually work better with students than I do with adults, because I think I'm always young at heart. And even though a lot of the students are 20 years younger than me, so I'm old enough to be their mom, I think I can relate to students a lot better than I can relate to adults. So that's a fun fact about me.
Okay, Pius, you next.
Yeah, so my name is Pius Goge, software engineer at Microsoft. Apparently, I just love technology. I don't know. That's my fun fact. I love to try new ideas, new stuff in engineering, new languages. Like, that's what I love.
Okay, it's a pleasure to meet you. Anthony?
Hi, folks. I'm Anthony Nandaa. Yes, maybe one fun fact right now. Maybe it looks like I'm the only one because I'm looking around. I'm the only one who hasn't shaved for the last almost 10 months. So I haven't shaved my hair for the last 10 months. So looks like it's the only fun fact. Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, Clement.
I'm Clement, a software engineer. I've been trying to buy time to think of a fun fact to state.
Could start with your favorite toothpaste, perhaps, or just anything random. Yes.
I'm an aspiring musician. One day in the future, maybe that one could be a fun fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can support you. You can drop your YouTube channel or Spotify profile, and we can follow you.
It's still cooking.
Oh, okay. We'll wait. For the next bit, I think Felix will take over and start us with the first bit of it.
Okay, so thank you very much, Alex, for that. Now, let me introduce, let me give this chance to Break Hogan. Okay, so Break is also a Gold Microsoft student partner and also an incoming intern at Microsoft. So maybe Break, you can say hi. Okay, so Break, you around? Okay, so maybe I think we just go on.
My connection is there is some delay on my computer on my connection. Okay. I'm Berke. I'm Gold Microsoft Ambassador, Microsoft Learn Student Member in Turkey. So I just accepted an internship. If you want me to just tell my story, I can go on, if it's okay by you. May I?
Maybe you can start us off. Just you can maybe just share how you got your how you managed to get an internship at Microsoft. Then we'll move to our other guests. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
I would recommend we can leave that the best for last. Sorry,
Okay, so
Pius,
yeah,
Clement,
I
and
think
Anthony. Yeah. Yes, Ruth, you had
okay, so I
something
think
to
he's
share
having
before.
some internet problems.
All right, so why don't we shuffle our order of things a little bit, and we'll put him in the very last because Nandaa, Pius, and Clement do need as much time as possible for their portion to impart the information that they need to help you out. So I'll kick it off. I'm here to really represent the university recruiting team. So for those of you that don't know, there are two camps in recruiting at Microsoft. There's university recruiting and there's industry recruiting. Industry recruiting handles anyone that has graduated past a year. Anyone that if you're looking to graduate within, like a year or a year after, you're still under the umbrella of university recruiting. And all our activities with the student ambassadors and the student community, it's all lined up with the university recruiting team. Now, unfortunately, Jen Travis, who heads the Continent's University recruiting, she won't be able to attend, but I'm here in her behalf. And I just wanted to let you know that there are several postings on the career site that I would love everyone to go in the career site and post. I'm trying to post it here. There's a delay. Post it on the chat window, and this is for those people that are in Kenya and you want to apply. The only way that a recruiter would reach out to you is if you have applied. So that's the number one thing, that if you're interested in coming into Microsoft, you have to apply. And the only place that you can apply is in our career site. I posted it into the chat window and filtered it out by Kenya. And there should be two types of postings in there. One for an intern position and another for full-time employees. So for those of you that are going to be finishing, like this is your last year and you're looking for a full-time job, that's our entry-level positions, the full-time employee. We are looking for two types of roles, one for program manager and another for software engineer. And I believe there are multiple software engineers. The program managers are usually, there's only one or two that we take in. Now, the other one is the internship position. So these are for folks that are looking for internship, and they're the ones that are not quite graduating yet. So if you're second year, third year, that's the perfect role to apply for. And it's open, and they're planning, university recruiting, they're planning to kick off the first round of interviews in December. So for those that have pinged me several times asking about whether these positions are still open, yes, they're still open. They're still accepting the applications, and they are going to start screening in December. So with that note, good luck. Make sure you apply, because they don't call you unless you apply. And then I'm going to hand it over to Pius, Nandaa, and Clement. Take it away, guys.
All right. Thank you, Ruth.
I believe we have a question for Anthony. Felix is to ask. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Felix.
Yeah, sure. Please, let's go ahead.
Okay, So, Anthony, we would like you to share your experience on how you got to get to Microsoft.
Oh, before you jump into the okay, that'd be good actually to also even I would like to the same fire. I'd like to bring in the other guys, Clement and Pius, to jump here with me. Just a minute. I just fix my. All right. Oh yeah, so my journey to MS basically was a bit straightforward for myself. I was working at a company called Nandaa for a long time, about 4 years. I was among the first employees there when they're just starting. So at some point I was looking for like to transition. At least I had done 4 years. I was feeling like, okay, I need to look for other challenges. So I started interviewing for other companies. I had not actually thought of Microsoft, just to be honest. I had interviewed with FB and Google, and the interviews didn't go well. So I did almost up to, not almost, all of them up to on-site, but these interviews also, sometimes you do fail so many times. So it's part of the process. So it was a good learning opportunity actually. So when the MS one came through, sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you. I think it was just someone unmuted and it was unrelated to what you were talking about, Nandaa. So you can go ahead and continue. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, so for my case, I did it was actually through a referral. Some of the guys who were being interviewed, they referred me. About 3 guys were talking about me, like when they were being asked about who do you think can be a good lead that you know, and they were referring me. So the technical recruiter had to look for me, and then just told me, hey, please put in your application. That time I had almost like I was almost not really interested in now interviewing anymore. Usually you have that time when it's sort of like you've just burnt out. You've done all this technical recruitment until you feel like, okay, let me just relax for now. So I put in my application, and luckily I was invited for the on-site, and I did the 4 interviews on the on-site. And now, as we say, the rest is history. So I hope that it's not really exciting. I guess there's nothing to learn from that, but that's my story.
Great. And the next question, I think, is for Pius.
Yeah, okay, go on. No, just go ahead. Yeah, the question is for everyone. Okay.
Pius to share the types of interviews that he went through, perhaps, before he became a software engineer at Microsoft.
Can I interject here, Alex? Alex, the guys actually have a prepared presentation that they wanted to impart to all of those potential candidates coming in. So this is a targeted, approach. And then what we could do is anything that they haven't already addressed, we can have them ask the questions. Will that work?
Problem.
Okay, thank you.
Though Ruth, I felt like also maybe these questions are a good warm up to what we are going to discuss. So I don't know. Maybe what you can do is this: put the questions out. Then let's see whether maybe some of them are already answered in the presentation. Then we can come to them at the end. That's okay.
No problem.
But in the meantime, you can just shoot the questions so that the guys can prepare for them to give you a good answer.
No problem. Take it away, Anthony.
Oh no, I was saying the questions for Pius and Clement. You can just shoot to them right now. Then we can come to it at the end.
Okay. So the question for Pius is the types of interviews he went through. And the next one for Clement is just how you can effectively prepare for it. But I believe you cover it during the session. So
oh yeah,
exactly. Yes.
Oh, nice, cool. Thank you. So guys, we're glad to be here, three of us, to just share with you a bit of some tips, and also glad to see that I think that is Beck who will be talking to you also about his experience. So it might be also a good one to just see whether these things they're sort of like just as a practical approach to it, can give you more tips and all that. So this is just we're going to share some of the things we believe are essential for your preparation and for you to ask a technical interview, but it's not all inclusive and it's not the Bible. So it's just some of what we feel might be good for you. So you can take some of this and also you can add in more others and also something that works for you. So this is our outline of what you're going to talk about. Talking about the main things about preparing is practicing. Even before you get the interview, just make sure that usually they say luck is when practice meets preparedness, when preparedness meets meets opportunity. That's when you have luck. So you don't need to wait until you have now that chance. They tell you, hey guys, come for an interview next week. I've met so many people who do that. Like then they're trying to cram everything into 1 week. So don't do that. Even before you get a chance, practice. Then get into the interview. We'll talk about also how to prepare for a specific interview, and then on specific things on the interview day. So let's start with, as I said, please put in the questions in the chat. Just drop in all your questions as we go. Then at the end, we'll address all of this, all of the questions. All right. Oh, Clement already asked me a question. All right. So, so as I said, practice, practice, practice. Don't wait until you have that chance and then start practicing. Start this right now. And of course, there's an argument against some of these things. Like, why do they ask questions about things that you don't really do in your day-to-day work? There's, of course, a whole philosophy around all these things. But what I've experienced myself is that even through these challenges and these code cutters, they help you to be a better engineer even in your own work. As much as it's not directly like you don't work on the same things like reverse a linked list in your work, but you get to understand cost of how you're building things, performance and all that, and it makes you a better engineer. So practicing will still kill two birds with one stone. So we had some sites that we are recommending. I'll share this deck at the end of the session. So you get these links there. So LeetCode is one of the sites that myself I used a lot, and really a good site. HackerRank is good with the just getting you from the basics to advanced. Is really like a school of sorts where you can just learn from the basics, like whether it's arrays and all those data structures and then graph and all that. And also specifically they have a kit, they call it an interview prep kit, which has a list of like essential topics that you can go through, and they also tell you about, okay, these are the most these popular questions from this company and that company. So it's that kit's really a good one to even start with, because it starts you from the basics to advanced. And then there's this site I got later on during my practicing called PRAMP. PRAMP just stands for Practice Makes Perfect. So PRAMP guys came up with this really brilliant idea where they know that many people are interviewing for jobs in various companies other than Amazon, wherever. So what they are doing is all these people who are preparing for interviews, they put you together and you can interview each other as you practice. So you'll go on that site, you'll schedule an interview. You don't know the person you'll meet. You just say, okay, I'm available today at 10 p.m. And then maybe Clement comes and says, okay, I'm also available at 10 p.m. And then they'll match you, Clement and myself. And then you will meet, they'll give Clement a question that he'll ask you, and then they'll give you a question that you'll ask Clement. So then when you meet, then everyone has 30 minutes to do that. 30 minutes for my questions and 30 minutes for their question. So it's a very good place to actually like do everything in practice. And also, you know, during interviews now, you're on tours, there's also time limit. That's a really big factor. Sometimes you are really on the right path, but you are very slow. And at the end of the day, you still get a bad review that you are good, but you are a bit slow on getting to it. So make sure that this is also a good one to make sure that you're practicing with time. And then there's this site called careercap.com. It has some questions. It's just a sort of like question, just crowdsourced questions from what people have said in interviews. It's not really a good practice to you don't have to get the exact question that someone was asked in the interview, but they'll give you some ideas of what to expect. Then we have some books that we're recommending. There's a book called Cracking the Coding Interview. It's the most like known book. Everyone knows about it. It's a good one. It's really huge though, but it's a good one to just get yourself like warming up and practicing to it. Elements of Programming Interview is also another one that is really awesome. It has more difficult questions than the Cracking Coding Interview, but it's really good. It's like just shows you, it's just like some of the things you never thought about approaches, then you get in that book and you wonder like, oh, why did I never think about such an approach? So it's really a good challenging book. And then there's a book, a free book called Just Algorithms. That is, if you follow that link, it'll get you to the free book where you can download the book. Yeah. Then it's good to come up with a practice routine. You can decide, okay, every day I will be spending maybe 15 minutes or 1 hour or 30 minutes to just go over some questions on LeetCode or whatever. So myself, what I had done was I came up with a schedule of like to do, like I need to at least do graphs, I need to do dynamic programming, I need to do this and that. So I put it on a checklist so that it's sort of my path to follow. So especially start with those that you know you're not strong at, the things that you like, you don't really want them to be asked in an interview. Start with those ones to at least just get like comfortable with them. Sometimes those things get a little bit hard at the beginning, but again, you have a second look at it, you look at other examples, they start making sense. So it's just repetition and practice is the way. Okay. Normally I'm used to like questions as I go. I don't like really monologues, but I think let's do this. Just drop in the questions on the chat. Then at the end we can just go back to everything. Then getting the interview, because at the end of the day you can practice, but without the interview, there's no, like, that's the shortest way of failing an interview is not getting one. So the thing is, you have to make sure that you're doing the right things to get the interview. So things like your resume, how you write your resume. I know some of you are just maybe finishing your campus, or you still like don't have a lot of experience, but that does not mean that you don't need to write a good resume. There are things, maybe projects you've done in school. Okay, these extracurricular activities that you do, they help you stand out in your resume. And most times, again, you write the resume according to what the job is. If the job is about something that you know you've done something around that work, you need to highlight those things in your resume. And another job, you might need to change your resume a little bit. So a resume needs to change according to the jobs. some people usually just they dump everything that they ever did on a resume. That's not really the case, because a resume is sort of like a profile, sort of just a cross section of what you are, to make me feel like, okay, I want to talk to you on an interview. So just make sure that you're calling out the most important things that you think the guys who are looking for this job are looking for. So a good guide is in this link on still the site Career Cup. It has a very nice like resume format. Though what has happened now over the years, I've seen that format is what all the engineers use in the world. All of them, like I see everyone using that format just as it was in the Career Cup. So you feel free to modify as you wish, but that's like what they were recommending for the most part. But also the recruitment team, maybe next time when you're meeting the recruitment team, they can also shed more light about the resume, how they go through the resume. I'm not really privy to how Microsoft's ATS works, the applicant tracking system works. So, but how you format your resume really matters on how those ATS systems will pick it up and get the exact things that they need. Then gathering good experience. Sometimes you must say, okay, I'm not started working. This should be my first job, so I don't have experience. So at least our field is one of the unique fields where you can get experience even before you get the job, so to speak. It's almost like illogical, but it's true. As opposed to maybe a lawyer, the only way to get experience is you have to be admitted to the bar, because you cannot even practice without having been approved or admitted to the bar. So, but for us, you can, at home, the pet projects you're doing, like remember the Game of Learners, those kind of things. You need to like highlight those things, maybe, and even Game of Learners is a good one. If you've already finished a hackathon or something, you don't have to stop there. You can continue that project, try to build it more, add a few things as you learn, because those are the things you can highlight in your resume or even during the interview. And also another one is open source contribution. Please, this open source is really great because you are contributing to humanity and to other people, and also you're building yourself. So it's a very good way of gaining experience. So if some of you have not really started on open source, I really encourage you. There's so many projects out there, and actually this month was what they're calling Oktoberfest month, where they were asking people to contribute or start on open source. And I'm a maintainer on one of open source projects, JavaScript. If you're a JavaScript person and you like to start on open source, please reach out to me. I'll introduce you to this project that I maintain, and you can start making some contributions there. Then, now you have the interview. You've gotten a slot. They say, okay, you're welcome. See you on Monday for this interview. So make sure that you prepare for that specific interview. Don't go in an interview unprepared. One of the things that helped myself was I used to write some notes just down of what I need to, maybe the things I need to talk about when I'm asked about something. Because the interesting bit is this, and most of you have been in this place. Have you ever been in a situation where you're asked like, hey, Nandaa, come and speak to people about this thing, maybe impromptu speech. You go in front and talk about something. Then when you sit down is when you realize, I should have talked about this. I should have said this. I should have said this. Like you just feel so bad that you didn't use that chance to talk about these other things. I know those chances, they don't come again. So make sure that the things that you really want to highlight in your, like your experience, what you've done, make sure that you just put them somewhere in bullet points and something. If you're like me, myself, I'm so forgetful. If I don't put some things down, I'll forget, then I remember after I've said. So that's really important. So questions for the interviewer, like if you already know, Microsoft is really good at when they invite you for an interview, they'll tell you the interviewer that you're meeting. So you might actually even check them up on LinkedIn. But some companies, they don't tell you who you will meet, but whichever way, have some questions for the interviewer about like what their day jobs, and something was also not out of the box, not just the usual questions like, okay, tell me how your day is like, but maybe something specific, something interesting about the current role. It makes you stand out and sort of like memorable. Then also research about the company that you're interviewing for, especially the team. Depending on if the company is big, Microsoft, you'll have to research about the whole Microsoft. Just look at the specific team that you're joining, any of the press things that you've heard about the team, and then at least will give you some good tips on what to ask. Then yeah, as I said, this is the last, just I think a repetition, just research about the company and the role and just get to understand it before you come to the interview. So you're on the interview table. Right now, I think in this era, we're just gonna be interviewing remotely. Most times you'll just meet someone online. So you're right there on your interview webcam and you're now ready for the interview. So what most interviewers are looking for are just like majorly 4 things, but there could be more, but they're looking at your coding skills. So like, can you really code? So, and this one now, you cannot fake. If you are not prepared, it's really hard for you to fake. And again, on the coding part, actually, it's good that I remember that you need to, when they ask you a question, use the language that you're most comfortable with, language that you use often. Don't try and impress the interviewer with some language maybe that you've just started learning right now, or something that maybe they said in this job we need C#, and then you have never done C#, but then you start learning C# maybe a week or 2 weeks, then you want to do an interview in C#. I tell you, that's the best way of wanting to fail, because maybe something will just slip. It will show you in a very bad light that you don't know the language, but yet we have good experience writing code. So you should pick something that you're really comfortable with, and you can quickly, like, you can be able to change things. If someone asks you, okay, I want you to modify this code to do like this, you can easily think through it and do it quickly. Yeah, so your coding skills need to be okay. And this also just, there's no other way around it, it's just through practicing your day-to-day stuff. Then as you write your code, make sure you're testing it, almost like testing it in your head, like, okay, this is what it's doing as you go, as opposed to something that will not show you well is when you're trying to print stuff in between a loop. Maybe, okay, let me print this to see what results will come. Basically, you're not even sure about what your code will do. It's just sort of like just praying that it works this way. Don't do that. So just make sure that as you're writing, you're also thinking about, like, okay, I've done this, I've declared, yeah, I need to. So you're sort of like testing as you go, but not really writing the tests, just testing in your head, like almost like dry run. Then your problem solving skills, they're looking for like how you're thinking, and this again is just still practice. There's nothing about like you're a genius or something. It's just about practicing, because you met these problems and you can be able to relate. Like this kind of question almost goes together with the other one that I got is in this category, so I need to maybe apply this. But the most important bit about problem solving is to understand the why. If you're using a hash map in this question, why are we using a hash map? Why are we not using an array? If you know the whys, then you'll be really okay with moving to anything whenever a question comes. Then your collaboration skills also, they want to see, like, are you someone who works well with others? So it's really important. You can be really 5-star developer, but if you're not someone who works well with others, it will just show even in the interview how you take in suggestions. Someone can ask you, oh, why are you doing this? And you're trying to be defensive. Maybe you're trying to say, oh no, it's because of this, or you're not like listening to suggestions. Those are some telltale signs that you're not really good at collaboration. So these are some things you can just, of course, improve on, get to have feedback from others to tell you how they think about your collaboration and all that. Now still on the interview day, so be flexible. Expect, don't just be fixated on, I've seen some people, maybe you met a question, this question maybe actually you did yesterday night, and then it's coming in the interview, and you become overexcited, like, hey, I know this one. So even you're not thinking about the question right now, you just feel like, I already know this one. So you start writing the like, this is my answer or something. Just treat everything afresh. Listen to what the question is all about. Sometimes even it's a tweaked question. Most of the times, interviewers, a good interviewer will not take a question, just lift, copy, paste. Like if I'm interviewing someone, I'll always tweak. I'll take maybe a question, but I'll always tweak it so that at least it's not the same. And also just to see what to get the specific things that I want to get from the question. So make sure that you're listening, and then also you're asking questions. And I think that should be the next thing. Yeah, you're listening to the questions clearly, and you're not and you're ready to take on anything. And then a good one is this: you come to an interview and you have asked a question and you've never seen something even close. You've never even done anything close. Don't start freaking out. Usually, naturally, you want to freak out. Even myself, if I get something that I've never seen, I'll feel like, wow, now where do I start? Don't freak out. Just try and listen to it, and just no, that's where your problem-solving skills come in. Like, what can you, like, what things come to mind, and how can you approach it? But don't be fixated on the mind that, I don't know this question, I've never seen such a question, I don't know where to start. Just do everything afresh and just be flexible and let it be. Yeah. And a good interview, make sure when you're going to an interview, you're relaxed. You're not really like, you just feel like, I have to get this one. So the best way is to maybe do it in a way that you feel like whether I get it or not is all right. I remember my earlier days, I was so much more fixated when I was doing interviews. It was more about like, I have to get this one, or maybe you're excited after an interview, you feel like, oh, this one, I think I nailed it. Then when they get you the results, they tell you, hey, sorry, you didn't make the cut. You feel so frustrated and so bad. So make sure that you're just open-minded and flexible to take everything that comes on your way. It's not as easy as I say, I know, but just try. Yeah. Then when you ask a question, make sure that you're asking clarifying questions. It also gives a good indication that you understand the question, and also you're trying to understand or getting some clarity, as opposed to just taking it and going with it. So things like asking about the bounds, what is the minimum, like it's an integer, what am I working with? What are the bounds? What's the maximum input or the minimum input? Can you take a null input? Like those kind of things will help you, like, even know where to focus on when you're writing your solution. Then when you have your solution, like you have an idea, even as you're coming up with that idea, make sure that you're talking it loud, you're thinking it loud. So you don't most of the interviewees, when you're starting off, especially if you don't know about this, you just be quiet fast and you're thinking in your head. But you see, an interviewer is right there, is also a human. They cannot read what you're thinking. So the best thing is just verbalize what you're thinking about, what your solution is all about. And let's say you already know the solution is a good solution. A good way to know that you have gotten it correctly is if you can explain it within 3 minutes. If you can talk through it within 3 minutes explaining it, then that's a good solution, or 2 minutes. It should not take long winding trying to explain the solution. But even if you're not sure about the solution, just talk out. Just try and ask questions. Okay, say, okay, I'm thinking about this. I'm not really sure about this one, but this is what I'm thinking about. I don't know. And sometimes actually you can actually this is a trick. Don't say that I told you. But you know, some interviews can make you like if I'm an interviewer, I've met times when an interviewee is so collaborative until they can make you to sort of like help them a lot about on the question, because they're like inviting you in, like, oh, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? So it's like it's almost like a peer. You're trying to solve this question together. So depending on an interviewer, some of them are really like can be tough on you. Others can be welcoming to like help you like collaboratively solve together, and also try and still pick up your strengths from it. Yeah, and of course have questions for the interviewer. So usually all interviewers, most of them will ask at the end of the day, oh, do you have any questions for me? It's really a bad thing if you say, oh, I don't have any questions. Please just make sure that those are the things that we can write them down before the interview, so that you just have these questions that you will ask. And even sometimes maybe usually what goes on is like you've done the interview for 30 minutes, it's been really tough on you, you are really upset, and then they ask you, do you have any questions for me? And because you're still upset, you just say, oh no, I don't have. Don't do that. Just have the questions and ask the questions. They show that you're interested in this process, and also you're keen. You're not just like doing it for the sake of it. Yeah, that's all. We just wanted to breeze through it. I didn't actually have taken more time than thought. Yeah, so we will then now welcome questions QA. We can start with the questions on the chat, and then we can maybe Alex, you will help me with that. But maybe before we go to the questions, just on this, as I've been speaking, Clement or Pius, do you have anything that any like comments, anything that you can just add before we get to the question, like your top of the mind things?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I have a little bit to hand on what you said. I think you covered quite a lot of what someone ought to have. Maybe I'll add a few points. And one is when you get the interview, one of the virtues you want to have is you need to be very confident. I'll talk of confidence and honesty because this is something that I think I came across. Confidence in, okay. So by confidence, I mean what you say, be sure you can stand for it, because sometimes you are like, you can give a solution and the interviewer might ask a question that you, from your hand, you feel like he or she is questioning my thinking. So you have to be very confident of what you are saying and be able to defend it. Even if it is, don't be nervous when the interviewer asks back a question about a thought you just put out there. Don't be so nervous. Like, you have to tell the interviewer, just give me a few minutes again. I think again, that would be showing some sort of lack of confidence of what you just said. In terms of honesty, is when you get the interview, an interviewer would ask, what was your previous project you are working, and then as usual, we usually have this a thought like, I need to show that I was working on a very good project and very perfect project. And you say I was trying to optimize 1, 2, 3, and these are the things that I got. And you think that puts you on a better position. So the thing with honesty is that if you ever worked in and you didn't touch a feature, don't mention a feature you have not worked on, because I remember talking of an experience, yes, I did it. And then the interviewer was like, even without going to my questions, can you explain to me more about the approach you took? So the thing here is, if you are to say something that you have worked previously, let it something that you can really explain, because the interviewer can use your past experience even to know or to gauge. And if you start mumbling, like I trying to use this, and the interviewer can connect the dots and know that you didn't do it. So just be honest, be confident, clarity. Nandaa mentioned that. Just be clear on your thought process, and don't overthink a solution. This week I had a mock interview the two guys, and you have like a very simple question just to start with, and overthinking start. Some of the solutions in some of the questions you get in an interview are not about the complex things you can always get. It's in the simple for loop, for example. It's in a simple index thing. So don't overthink, like I want to impress the interviewer by giving the perfect solution. Just think simply, don't overthink, take it easy, and you'll probably get a solution really fast. And of course, in the spirit of not overthinking, you should always purpose to give don't spend 20 minutes thinking of the perfect solution. The trick is give a brute force solution. Whatever comes in your hand that can work, just give it out. And then the interviewer will be kind enough, hopefully, to give you time to optimize. Don't try looking for an optimized solution when you have a brute force solution. So you give the brute force solution, and then you optimize that if time allows. It is better to get out with a brute force solution than coming out having not given any solution. And so, yeah, those are the things that probably I would have handled. Yeah, in terms of whatever Nandaa mentioned. And don't forget to test your code. Don't be like, yeah, that's the solution, and then any question for me. The thing is, the interviewer is looking for someone will write a code, and then you don't test it. It's in a whiteboard, remember. There's no laptop. There is nothing like a laptop. So you have to factor in time to test your code, walk through with the interviewer, give the function inputs X and Y, step through the logic, and the interviewer will be kind enough to give you the extreme cases if you have missed them. Like Nandaa mentioned, get your inputs right from the interviewer. Even if it is very easy, it takes time to get the inputs, because it will catch you later when you are not checking if the value is negative zero, is below zero, and the interviewer will get you when you are testing. So make sure you have the right input so that you test the right code. Yeah, and that probably does it from me. Thank you.
Thanks. Clement, do you have anything else?
Maybe just one point is when you're preparing for the interview and like you're going through all these sites and all these source materials, like just make sure you understand what you go through. Don't memorize solutions or don't memorize implementations. If you memorize and you regurgitate what you've memorized at the interview, like if the interview just makes a tweak to the question or a tweak to the algorithm or a tweak to the problem, then you can really easily get lost. Or sometimes if people have interviewed at the same day, they might ask a friend, like, how did the interview go? What questions were you asked? And maybe some people do leak such information, but it's easy for an interviewer to tell that you really don't understand. Even if you give a correct solution, the interviewer might tell that you don't really understand what you wrote if you're not able to answer follow-up questions or be able to explain this an alternative solution if the input changes slightly. So just aim for understanding and not for memorization.
Great. I guess let's quickly bring through the questions that have been in the chat. Because I think also would like to hear from, I think when you hear from someone like Beck, it will be really great because this, I think most of you are also looking forward to internships. So it's good to hear firsthand experience would be great. So quick one question. The first one was to me from Clement about, yes, so those interviews really, I feel like they really prepared me. Even failing all the others really prepared me for this one, because now this one didn't require a lot of extra preparation. I just jumped to it and did it. So that was really great. So just underscoring the importance of preparation. And then the other question is, are web developers required to learn data structures as well, or is their interview different from software engineers? And then let Clement, you can take this. What do you think?
Well, I view the question really differently, because in my question, I don't distinguish between a web developer and other types of developer. I see all types of applications as computer programs which uses the same principles. They just run on different platforms. But if you're writing JavaScript, a string is a data structure, an array is a data structure, an object, a map is a data structure. A for loop functions the same if when you're iterating over an array. So I feel like those core principles are transferable regardless of which type of application you're building. And the more you understand about these core fundamentals, the more your skills are transferable to different platforms, and the more you're able to make more informed decisions about the application you're building and about the kind of cost that you're paying, about the kind of algorithms to use. So in some cases, you may get to do what you want to, you can get to build your programs without having to be conscious of what's going on under the hood. But the further you want to progress in your career and the more complex projects you take up, the more important these core fundamentals are to your job and to your ability to make decisions, technical decisions, and build more complex products, regardless of whether it's a web application or a mobile application or a CLI application. I think at the core, it's the same thing.
Great. I think that answered it well. This is Nandita asked about important topics that you need to check out. So yeah, I think there are a number of essential topics, but most times interviews are really funny. Just like, you guys are students, you've seen the exam always comes from things that the one that you just skipped. I remember it happened to me so many times. The pages that I just skipped and the ones that the question one is from the page that I just skipped. I said, this one might not come. So yeah, we have some essential topics that I think you have to get. Then the ones that maybe don't appear mostly in interviews. So there's a list. I think we can share the prep. The prep kit has a good list of I'll share this deck with you guys. You can see the links there. So it has a list of some of the topics that you need to check out. The ones that appear most in most interviews. And then, is it okay to disclose to the interviewer that you don't know how to do a question? Don't know how to do is not really a good way. Because the thing is, you need to attempt. The best thing is that you really need to attempt. Pius, do you need to, can you take this up? What do you think about this? Disclose.
Okay, so this one I'll answer according to some of the, before I did the interview myself, I took a lot of time to do research. I think I spent quite a lot researching. And one of the approaches that one question that was always coming up was, If you really feel like the question is really hard for you and you have attempted it, because the interviewer, once you start giving up your mind and your thought process, the interviewer can chip in and try to guide your thoughts. So before you quit, just make sure you have given out a solution, wherever it is coming up in your hand. So the interviewer will guide you and see if you will really get to the end of this problem. So even before yourself, you say you quit, the interviewer will be kind enough to know that this is a hard question for you. They usually have like, they don't come with just one question, they have fallback plans, depending on the level. So if you're given a senior question, a question that is interviewer will give you another question. So the earlier you are able to identify like this is a redundant question for me, then the interviewer will really take note of that and give you another question that you can tackle. So it's okay to say it, but just try, go through with the interviewer, and then he can give you another question. But also, again, don't spend much time keeping quiet. For a question you feel this is a hand for me, just say it out. There will always be another question for you.
Can I chime in on that one as well?
Sure.
Yeah, so this is coming from a person that does go through the university recruiting and one of the interviewers usually. And as an interviewer for the university recruiting, what we are also tasked to do is to put down if this particular candidate does not fall into this role, are they going to be, can they be PMs, for example? So part of our job as interviewer is to assess the situation, to see if you're going to be good for this role. And if you're not going to be good, if you're not going to pass, the interview for this role, would we suggest that you get interviewed for another role, like a PM role? So when you're faced with a question, with an interview question where you can't answer, don't try to just wing it, because we'll know, but just answer it as honestly as possible, because we will be able to detect whether you're really more suited for a PM role or a SWE role, a software engineer role. So in our assessment, because we have to go into a tool and put in, hire, no hire, and whether we would recommend you for another role, we would have to say in there, no hire for this particular role, but definitely put in, I would suggest to have them be interviewed for this other role. So just to let you know what happens behind the scene on the opposite side of you.
Great. I think there was a question around how do you test the code on whiteboard. I think this you have to be like practical, but basically just talking through, like if you have written your code and then your input is like your function is function A takes something B. So you say, okay, my B is 20. So you walk through line 1, B is 20 at this point. At this point, X is this, like almost like the way you used to do maths and stuff like that. And until you get to the end, just make sure like you're explaining that. But that we can do mostly in like in practical as you go through the practice. And maybe at this point, I can call out some program that you are working on right now. We are still in the formative stages, but be on the lookout. We want to start an interview prep program under the GOL clinic, Game of Learners clinic. So please look out for that, and you can come there now. At least we can have practical preparation, and we feel like maybe if you prepare in a group, it's way better than when you're just doing it alone. But that does not negate it won't do the work for you. You still need to do the work yourself, like personally. But this is just a team will just help you like be within a team and ask questions and grow. Yeah.
I see there's a question there about a PM. It says that since PMs don't do much coding, does it mean that they don't go through a technical interview? Yes, many PMs do not go through technical interviews, especially from the university recruiting. But it does not mean you don't go through the PM technical interview version. So PMs at Microsoft are fairly technical, but the questions that they're asked are related to how to run a program. It's so much more like problem solving without the code. So for example, how do you enhance a particular feature? How would you get the enhancement? How would you create it? And then you would have to go through the different ways that you would get feedback from the customer, or the different ways, like you would have to go through that. So yeah, you may not walk through code, let's say, but you still have to walk through a process, and you still have to tell the interviewer what you would do to solve the problem.
Okay, so thank you very much for that, Ruth. There are also other questions that we collected from the audience. Okay, so maybe I can just go through them very fast. Now, the first question is, once you've been accepted for an interview, how long do you think what amount of time do you think you'll be given to prepare for that interview, like in terms of weeks or months?
I'm gonna defer to the experiences of the guys to see how long that took. How much time did they give you? My experience was a month, but it varies because it depends when you got pulled in. So, guys, do you want to answer that question?
In my case, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks, but as you said, it varies because I think like at the moment when the pipeline is very long and they have a large backlog of interviews to run, I have a friend who's been waiting since June for the technical interview. So in his case, he has like many months to prepare. So I think it varies.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. Okay, so in short, somebody just needs to be ready for that interview, whatever the time. Now, the next question is, in case you are white coding, and okay, let's say a recruiter gives you a question, and this question you have made it before, and you know both the optimal solution and also the naive approach. So should we just go direct to the optimal solution, or should we first of all try and do it the naive way, then try to optimize it as you go to the final solution? So any of you can answer this.
I'll nominate Nandaa.
Just come again between just sorry,
okay.
I think I missed it a little bit.
Okay, so the question is, let's say a recruiter gives you a question, and this is the question you have met before. Now, the first question is, should you let the recruiter know that you have met this question before? Now, the next question is, in case you don't tell the recruiter that you have met this question before, should you go direct to the optimal solution, or should you first of all start with a naive approach, then try to optimize it as you go back?
Oh, this is a good one. And I think what you can, so first whether you've made it before, it's a yes and no, because at the end of the day, if actually you've met this question before, then I think you should do it within the shortest time possible. But just saying that you've met, because sometimes if it were me, if you've met it before, then I wanted to actually do it and maybe I'll add extra stuff on it. if you finish earlier. Normally, that's how the interviewers are prepared. Like they know that some candidates might do the questions very fast because they already have made it before and they go to the optimal solutions directly, which is okay. It's not really wrong at all. You only go to the brute force one when you don't know about the optimal, like, and you don't want to start wasting time trying to figure out the optimal, as Pius had said. Just start with the brute force. It's better than having that like a half a loaf than no bread. But then they're now working on optimizing, but don't make it mechanical. Like you already know the solution, but you're just doing the non-optimal so that you can optimize. Yeah. So just go to the optimal one and maybe talk about the brute force. So you can say, okay, for this question, a brute force solution will be something like this. The optimal will be this one. So you can go the optimal one. But actually talking about the brute force will also be good to just show that you understand your solution and what you're doing. I hope that answered. But on the issue around whether you should tell the interviewer, I'm thinking that for real, let me say, if it was me, like I'm meeting a question that I've already seen, I'd be happy, like, okay, let me see, let's crash it. But should you, if you feel like this will just be a waste of time, this one I really know the solution, I can do it so quickly. Do it quickly and maybe just say that, okay, I've seen this question before, and then maybe actually they'll be happy and say, okay, because after all, if you told me it's something that you didn't have to tell me, I think I should not really even penalize you. I feel good that you are really honest and you told me that I already made this one, so let's do another one. Most times they always have a backup question, so I'll give you a backup question, and still that won't, you failing this second one does not make you fail the whole interview, because it's not your fault that you already saw this question before you came to the interview.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Anthony. Now, the next question is now for those people who are looking for internships or the new graduates. Now, what time frame should they expect for an interview? Like, how long should an interview last? And for a fresh graduate, how many interviews do you think they should prepare for, especially if it's for, in this case, for Microsoft? The time frame for an interview and also the number of interviews that they'll have to go through. Now, maybe depending on the role.
I can answer that. So
yeah, sure, thanks.
Yeah, so it depends what role and what team you're interviewing for. In general, what usually happens is you have the screening by the university recruiter, and that is for you guys, it would be Jen Travis. So you would have to pass her screening, be able to make sure that your CV says what they're looking for and so forth. And then they would invite you, that recruiter will invite you for a call. So this call it's already the starting point of your interview. And in that call, it's usually done by the recruiter. So it's not the engineer or the PM interviewer yet. It's still done by the recruiter. And they would do the screening there to then determine whether you can go to the next step. So depending on the team, there could be an interim step there where they have another person from the team to do a screening, but many teams forgo that and then allow just the recruiter to invite the candidate to finals interview. So in a finals interview, there is usually you get invited, usually like before COVID and all that, you would get invited on site, and you would see, let's say, 4 different interviewers at the same day, and each interview would be about 45 minutes. So you have to make sure you come in with, you had plenty of sleep, you're not cranky, because you have to be on your best, because you will be going from one interviewer to another all in one day. Because of COVID, all of our interviews have been virtual. So it may not happen that, let's say, your 4 interviewers will happen all in one day. It could be spaced out in a matter of a week, like a week's time. But on average, you would get to see 4 interviews. You would get to sit in on 4 interviews, and each interviewer is usually assigned a particular job. Like for example, one interviewer would be assigned on diversity and inclusion type of questions. One interviewer would be assigned on the technical type of question, whether it's the software engineer type of technical question or a PM type of technical question. And so when we go in to go through the interview loop with all the candidates, we have specific jobs to do, and then we come back as a team and we then decide hire, no hire, or maybe, or something like that, and then we cover our particular responsibility for that interview. So I hope that answers your question. So, Nandaa, Pius, and Clement, I mean, you can chime in here as to how your interview process panned out for you coming into Microsoft, but as an interviewer, this is the the process we usually went through with the candidates.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Anthony, you have something?
I don't know, just saying, yeah, I think that's the general process, like what I've seen also, like what I went through. My case was a bit different. I went through, I skipped some steps, but normally that's the process. And I guess Clement, Pius, you can agree to that.
Pretty much. Okay. So the next question is now, in most cases, the interviews, normally the people being interviewed, they normally do the whiteboard coding. Now, can somebody be penalized for syntax errors, or it's just a matter of you coming up with the correct solution? And then now maybe also let me just ask this one: is dressing mode really important? Like, do they really care, the recruiter, how you dress, especially if you're going for, let's say, for a software engineering role? So you can take on that. Anyone?
Okay, I can take on the first one, the syntax. Yeah, syntax is yes and no. Yeah, it is yes and no in terms of those that maybe an interviewer, every question there's something that the interviewer is looking for, the most important bits. So I'll just focus on that bigger picture. The syntax might not really be big, but then there are those syntax that can be so bad that this is like, if you left a semicolon, maybe that one won't really matter. But if you did really a big syntax error, it will just show you in a bad light. It just show that maybe this is not a language you write mostly. It don't really reflect good on you. So it's good just write good code. Just if you can write, if you can put a semicolon, why not just put it? But if you forgot, it's all right. I think most interviewers will understand, and they'll just know that, oh, you're in a hurry, just forgot the semicolon. Yeah. On the second question, maybe someone else can take.
The dressing code?
Yes.
Okay, so the dressing code is, was it official, casual, or casual official, something like that. But yeah, I think it doesn't really matter, because casual, official, I think there is something like that. Just be smart enough, be comfortable. A suit, I don't think I will come to a technical interview with a suit, of course. Just be smart. Maybe that's what I took from there.
Yeah, can I chime in on the dress code?
Yeah, sure.
So for the dress code, it depends what you're going in for. Just don't look like you just crawled out of bed, okay? Because really, you're just common sense. When you come in, you can even wear jeans if you're comfortable with that. Just don't come in all super ripped jeans, you know, and it also depends what role you're interviewing for. So there are a lot of open roles, and this is where you really need to pay attention what organization it's coming from. If it's coming from sales, there could be a technical role, technical internship, but it comes from the sales organization, then you need to come in more dressed up. Like, you got to put in your dress shirt, and if you're going to wear jeans, make sure there are no rips and all of that. If you're coming in as an engineer, so in the organization you see engineering, you can even come in as a t-shirt, you know, as long as it's appropriate and there's nothing, you know, like no bad words or anything like that, you're fine. And you know, because the expectations with software engineers and PMs as far as dress code is that you're there to really represent your brain. And so we don't really judge on how you dress, as long as you don't dress like in your bathrobes or anything, you know. But with the sales organization, that is very important. Make sure you dress up appropriately.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now, I have this question, and I would like to direct it to Clement. Now, the question is, how long do you think a resume of a student or somebody usually in the university or somebody just a fresh graduate, how long do you think that resume should be? Because normally they say that it should be a maximum of 1 page. And at times you find that maybe the projects you have done, or they might overlap 1 page. So Clement, this one is for you and anybody else after that.
Yeah, I think I'd also recommend like a page, if possible. I think Anthony said that your resume doesn't have to be your entire life. It could just be like the cross section that is relevant to the job that you're applying to. So in that sense, like, you could just make sure that the most important information stands out, and what's not relevant to that job, you can just leave it out.
I can speak for the university recruiting team that they prefer it's all in 1 page. So I can tell you that right now, because I've sat in many sessions with them, and that's their recommendation. Put everything that you've done in 1 page, and it'll make it easier to go through your CV.
Okay, now maybe the second. Okay, Anthony, you have something?
Oh, no, just there was a question. There are 2 questions that were repeated twice about UX, whether MS will be hiring UX designers soon. So let me just say this: there might be many roles coming up in the near future. So the best thing you can do is make sure that you are on the careers site, careers.microsoft.com, and you put on alerts. So put alerts on the jobs that you're really interested in, and I think in the near future you might have those kind of jobs coming.
And I agree with Anthony. So everything that we have opening, it's our policy to post it on the careers page. So there will never be a role at Microsoft that is super secret and, you know, and won't get posted up. So those roles that are available externally will always get posted in the careers. It's a policy of Microsoft. Otherwise, we will get in trouble by the government. So rest assured that all the roles that are available are posted in the careers. Now, as the UX designer portion, we currently do not have any locally. However, when you're working with the university recruiting, they are a global recruiter. So they cover the entire globe of Microsoft. So whether it's a full-time position, UX designer, let's say, or an internship position, UX designer, if you see it, like, let's say in the US, and you can apply for it, and the university recruiter that's assigned to this continent will contact you if your CV lines up. So it's the same set of people that are recruiting across the globe. They all work together, and this is why it's very efficient when the university recruiting tags into their universities as well as the students. So for those of you that are looking for UX designer roles, open it up to other regions of the globe.
Okay, maybe my second last question. Now, what advice would you give to someone, let's say a young guy, let's say age of 20, and this specific person hasn't attended the college or the university, and he or she is interested in getting to work at these big tech companies like Microsoft. Now, what advice would you give to this person? Because now, personally, from my experience, most of the roles I've seen, they need somebody to be having maybe that, how do you call it? Should be in a university, or maybe just having a degree. So what advice could you give to such a person?
Do you want to do a round robin of that, guys? I can go last.
Let's start with you, Ruth.
All right, I guess it start with me or end with me. It doesn't. I felt like I was just talking. So I was gonna ask Pius, Clement, or Nandaa to start first, and I'll talk last.
Okay, I can go. So the first, like, I think it's now a MS policy. I'm yet to confirm, but what I've been seeing most in the latest job posts, really for a degree. If you just look closely, you will see such a thing. If you just look at most of the jobs, the one that I can only know right now is the researcher, because the research really, it's really a lot of technical stuff that is more of academic side of things. But Microsoft, I think, and some other companies, they made a pledge that they're going to scrap off degree as a requirement for you to join MS. But of course, there is other things that can, other laws and stuff that come in between, especially if you're going to some countries and all that. There'll be some other technicalities. So, but it's not really a lack of a degree that does not really buy you from getting to Microsoft or any of these companies these days. But that said, of course, there have to be a big compensation on your experience. So you really have to have good experience. So I'll just say that you'll be right fresh from high school, then you get a spot in these companies. But it can be possible, yes, because maybe you've done a lot of things while you're in high school. But it would really, you really have to now have other things that really stand out.
Okay, anyone else with something on that?
Maybe I can chip into. I think a degree is just helpful to have for as long as you can prove your skill set, what you are saying you can do. Not only to Microsoft, but to, I think I have done quite a number of interviews before, and the last thing they have ever been asked in an interview was a paper. So if you have it, it can be helpful. It gives you an upper hand. But if you don't have, just try, because yeah, you get the same chance to get an interview, not because you have a degree, but because you can prove what you're saying you can.
Okay. If there's no one else, I think I'll go back to the questions in the chat section. Okay, Clement, I saw you unmuted your mic.
Oh, I was just going to add that the only time I've been asked for a degree is when I was applying for a master's program. So I guess a degree helped me to get another degree. But I think it's more of what you know, what you can show, and what you can actually do concretely that matters. So that's what a degree is supposed to be proof of. And if it does not prove that, then it's useless.
And at ADC, we actually have a couple of guys that never had their degree. So the way Microsoft is big into diversity and inclusion, And to be inclusive, it does not require someone to have a degree unless you're in research, in which case you would have to have either a master's or PhD sometimes. But for us, Microsoft, what it is, especially if you're young, the degree just shows you growth because it gives you time to stay in an institution for 4 years. So for an interviewer, it's really easy to say, oh, you made it that far, you made it that long, so you have stamina and you can stick it out. But it does not mean that if you're really a person that are brilliant and can self-teach and can just go on different avenues of learning. I mean, if you go to MS Learn, you can absorb a lot, you can consume a lot of that, learning by yourself. And if you can showcase that in GitHub, you can come in for a role. And so so I would recommend that if you do not have a degree, just make sure that on GitHub you have, your portfolio is great. Like it has to be stellar, because like what Nandaa was saying, the lack of years at an institution, you need to compensate that with experience. So that's all we're kind of saying the same stuff. But yeah, to answer your question, Felix, a degree is not necessary, but you have to show it in your work. I see
okay, now
one by Kevin on the chat window. Yeah, Felix, I see a question on the chat window about global position. Are they virtual interviews and will you have to relocate? The interviews are virtual, but right now during COVID times, some of them don't necessarily require you to relocate, but many roles, traditional roles, let's say, do have to have you relocate. So if you are like an intern, for example, we had internship roles that are in Boston, in Redmond, Washington, in Europe, that we actually when we have the student relocate there for 3 months during the 12 weeks that you are on internship. Right now, we couldn't do it because we had to pivot all our internship to virtual, but I'm sure that once this whole COVID thing ends, that we're probably gonna go to full on in-person or at the very least hybrid.
Okay, there was also a question that was asked by Nandita. I think it was the first question that was asked. Now, Nandita said, I want an insight into the university recruiting events for student ambassadors. I think Nandita is a student ambassador, Microsoft Learn student ambassador. So maybe let me direct this one to Ruth.
I'm sorry, you were cutting up when you were speaking, Felix, but I think I got the gist of it. You were asking about one that was on the chat window about opportunities for student ambassadors to have that interview process. We're working on that. So the idea is if you're part of the student ambassador program, that you would have this special pipeline for interviews into the into Microsoft family. So I'm still working on that with the university recruiting, but just stay tuned. When we get to the level where it's all fleshed out, we will send out communications to the student ambassador family.
Okay, one last question from my side. Now, what advice would you give? Okay, how would you advise somebody to prepare for behavioral interview, behavioral kind of questions in an interview? Hello?
Did you say behavior type of questions?
Yeah.
Like soft skills?
Like for the behavioral kind of questions where you asked a question like the kind of problem you solved in the past or how you handled a problem, those kind of questions.
So so there's really no way of preparing for those types of questions because it's very tied to your personal experience. So just my recommendation is that don't make up anything because the lie will catch up, to you. Be as true to yourself as possible. And what I noticed, especially just because, I came from the US, I'm used to the whole interview process with the US students. And then when I came here, one thing that I noticed was that that students here, they get so serious and then they don't really show their true selves sometimes, their true personalities. What I want to see is, your fun self, we tried to do this with the Game of Learners. We tried to really bring it out from the students, but it's hard to really see how you are if you don't let your interviewer see you. So my suggestion with the behavior or anything like that is really try to be as honest as you can to the question, and really show how you would handle situations like that. If you haven't if you haven't handled a situation like that, just say, oh, that never happened to me before, but if it did, this is what I would have done. So just say it like that, and you're not going to get penalized for it. But don't be, one thing I say is don't be so uptight when you go into an interview. Relax a little bit and really show yourself in the interview, because that's who we want to hire. I hope that answered the question. Anthony and Pius and Clement,
I think that's
feel
all
free to
from my
chime
side.
in.
I think that covers it, yeah. Because usually behavioral, they're just asking you what you've gone through, like, or some hypothetical like situations. So just be honest with your experiences and what you've gone through and what you've learned from.
Okay, thank you, Pius, Clement, Anthony, and Ruth. My only request right now is for you to share your socials, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter, so that the other students can reach out to you in case they have any further questions. Yes, before we end the session, I've noticed that we're way past time and it's been very engaging.
This is actually a pilot for us because we wanted to put together similar to this as part of the Game of Learners clinics, is anything related to the interviews, recruiting, give you a little bit of insight as to what happens behind the scene, or even mock interviews and things like that. So we're planning all of that, but this was our first go at this, and this was more of a learning for us as well as to what we can take on for our clinics and what we should include. Like what I see here is that it's really hard to put it in 1 hour. Maybe we need to make it an hour and a half. So or cut the content a little bit so that it's only an hour. So.
Thank you. I think for future sessions, we could break it down to the specific bits. Anyway, I believe that's all that we have for today. Thank you very much. Don't forget to leave your links to your LinkedIn as well. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Just a heads up, I have shared the PPT on email, so you guys should get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. And looking forward to the other next engagement.
All right. Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you.